I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have Teresa with us today for our artist talk. And thank you, Teresa, for accepting to do this artist talk with us. As you know, Teresa grew up in a rural area of Quebec. Her upbringing fostered her admiration for the deep woods. As a result, her work is inspired by the natural world. She graduated from Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado, with a degree in contemplative arts. As she observes the natural world around her, Teresa pays special attention to the negative space between objects. Many of her large-scale oil paintings are now on display across US and Canada. Teresa currently lives on a small island in Washington State, where she enjoys riding her horse in the woods. From her home, she has spectacular views of the magnificent Mount Baker and the Salish Sea. This artist talk will be followed by a 20-minute question and answer period. We are thrilled to be displaying a collection of Teresa's vibrant and impressionist landscapes at Winchester Galleries until June 16th. So thank you everyone for joining us and thanks for listening. I would like to turn the table to Teresa and ask her to start her artist talk. And I will be back after your talk is done. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this talk. So just to give you a little background, well, first of all, I'd like to change this view because all I'm looking at is a blank screen. Let's see. I'm sorry about that. Okay, better. Anyway, so I grew up in Quebec, and I started my art degree there, and that's where I got to know the Canadian artists, Tom Thompson, the Group of Seven, Emily Carr. Always been an inspiration to me, not only because of their impressionist style of painting, but their philosophy around nature and being in nature and painting nature. So that was an inspiration. And then I finished my degree in Colorado at Naropa, which is a Buddhist-inspired university. And there I learned contemplative art. And I'll tell you just a little bit. So a lot of what you hear and see is conceptual art. And that is, you have a concept and then you paint that. And it's not that I don't have a concept, it's that I kind of come in the back door. So when I'll go out. I do spend a lot of times in the woods, in the wilderness. I have horses, so I'll go on my horses or walk the dog or just hike. And as I'm in there, I'm not really looking for things to paint necessarily, but I'll notice colors, I'll notice shapes, I'll have, it inspires me. And the interesting thing is that I'll go in there and I'll have, I can have all the troubles or whatever, and I go into the woods and it never fails. I come out the other side just feeling, free and joy, and that's what it does to me. And then when I come back into my studio, I kind of put that out of my mind and then paint just whatever comes to me, like what I'm inspired by. And I'll do several paintings and it might start a theme and then I'll go, oh, there's my concept. And then, so it's just coming in the back door. But, I don't know, it's all about trees for me, and all of my paintings have trees. The other thing is that for many years I painted in watercolor. So what that
luxurious campsite.
Sorry, Teresa, I think you are muted.
I didn't touch anything, honest.
I'm so sorry about that.
Uh,
So if you please just repeat your last couple sentences, that would be wonderful.
okay, I was saying that I sorry, my dog is barking. This is the thing about being live. So I was saying I was doing a watercolor. I was a watercolor painter for many, many years. And because of that, I think it kind of directs how I paint now. So I paint the foreground first, like these trees were actually brushed on. I don't draw. And then the negative spaces behind. So when you were introducing me, you talked about negative spaces. So important to me, those negative spaces. So when I come, I'm in my studio, I start a painting with a very loose, drippy, orange or gold color. And then I draw onto that. And what I want to do is I want to allow some of that background to show through. And so building it up layer upon layer, the first one might be very, just drippy and inspirational. And then that gives me something to go by. It's kind of like having a little bit of chaos that I have to fix, if you will. And then I start putting in the shapes, and it builds up layer upon layer, leaving a little bit of each layer to show through. And I find that gives a lot of energy to the work. So anyway, maybe what I should do is go to the slides, and then I can show you each piece, kind of what I was thinking, or what, a little bit about each painting that's at Winchester Galleries right now. So Anahita, I guess I can just share the screen, right?
Yes. You're now able to share your screen.
Fingers crossed it works. Yes. Okay. Can everybody see it?
Yes, I believe everybody can see that.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this is just a shot of the gallery and the show. You can see that the pieces are quite large. I love painting a large scale. It's when you have a painting that's 4 feet by 5 feet or something like that, it really changes the energy in the room. And I love being able to just the feel of stepping inside. So when I was talking about my concept or whatever, at one point I've gone to like Cathedral Grove and these big old growth forests, and I've gotten so inspired. And I did a cathedral series. So what cathedral means to me is like, well, not only the cathedral trees, the giant trees, but almost a sense of the stained glass and a very spiritual aspect to it as well. So it almost feels like in this painting, and this is 4 feet by 5 feet, it's a nice big painting, and that you feel like maybe you're lying on the ground looking up. It's very intimate and very close. And there's some, I don't know if I can zoom in, it's a little bit hard, but this here was a lot of the first layer. So it's kind of drippy and so on. And then coming in and getting more and more texture and thicker brush strokes as I go. This is another one that's in the Cathedral series. And then this one was a little wilder. So sometimes I go a little more abstract, and this one's called Wind and Sky. So you're lying on your back, and I probably did this a lot when I was a kid, right? Lying down, looking up, looking at the sky, looking at how the branches swirl in the eye, and you're just lying down there and blissfully looking up. And that's 4 by 4. Here's another big one, and that name, Mystical Landscape, this really tells it right here. And in these next few, I was kind of thinking more in terms of transparency. And I did a lot of glazes and just getting that feel, that ethereal kind of feel to the atmosphere that you get here on the islands and in the Northwest. And I brought some water in there. And this is called Lagoon. So I've painted the lagoon so many times. I go there almost every day, and there's like these old growth forests that I walk through. The lagoon is on one side, and then the trees on the other. And then this is another cathedral painting slipped in there. So, and it's called Redwood. I also went to Northern California and painted the redwoods. And again, you know, when it comes to color and people go, well, you know, how do you decide about color? And the way I think about it is when I'm out in the woods or riding through a field, I'm noticed, oh, wow, look at that bush. Wow, look at that color. And often you will see certain colors that you wouldn't know were there. And I exaggerate it, I admit it. And in this one, there's an example. And sometimes I feel like, you know, what is the best color to go next to that red if I want people to experience the red. So I do push my boundaries there a little bit. And this center part is, again, it's the first layer that's been glazed over. So here's another one, a lot of glazing, and it's called Shoreline Tide. And it kind of, some of them have a different feel. I don't like the word whimsical, but sometimes, I mean, these background trees look a little bit like they're dancing or something. So that's that one. And then the next one as well, these colors, you know, and I hope you can all see these in person, because it's a different experience. But again, you know, that blue and like alizarin crimson and the violet, I think a lot about colors floating back into this warm color and then into the sky. Now this one is a little different, and every now and then I'll get an idea, and I really played with the drips on this one, and I just I wanted to do water in a different way. So water to look like water, you know, it's not as simple as it seems. So I not only did I start with a very drippy underpainting, but then I did more drips on top. And sometimes I'll use palette knife and I'll, you know, paint over it, and I'll literally put paint on there. And I use sometimes, what is it, like the lavender distillate, Chelsea Studios makes it. And it will thin the paint really well and then make the drips. So that one is really fun to see in person. Okay, here's one. This one, I gotta say, is pretty busy, but I like it. And I did a lot. And sometimes, you know, painting for me, and this is kind of interesting, but when I'm painting, I don't like to think about what I'm doing. It's almost like doodling. So I have this, and that's where the contemplative art comes in, I think, too. It's more like meditation. So I'm just, you know, one stroke next to the next, and I'm filling in those negative spaces. I'm making shapes. These are all shapes. And I'd like to say something else too that I think about, and this is really important to me, that when you are standing up close to one of my paintings, think about it as if there are hundreds of little landscape paintings. And when you're right up close, sometimes it just looks like all these marks. Some are thick, some are thin. And the negative spaces in here make those little abstract paintings. And then when you stand back across the room, you see, oh, it's trees. I get it. I get it. There's depth there. There's trees. There's the sky. I like to have, you know, people to be able to use your imagination too. And maybe you'll have your own ideas in it. But people that have my paintings will often say, you know, I see something different every day. I see something different in that painting. And I think it's because it is made up of like literally hundreds of landscape of abstract paintings in all the areas. And that's how, at the end, when I feel like the composition is right, I'm happy with it, I will go, you know, step by step by step across the painting and make sure that it all works in its own right, even each little inch. So that's kind of how I work. And I just, so this part here, and I don't know if you can blow it up or not, like this was the first layer, this red was the first layer of paint. So, and then some of these brush strokes are pretty thick. This one is wilderness. I mean, again, just being in the forest, and you're in there. And especially in the winter, there's all these reds and golds, and you know, the bracken fern has these deep colors, and madrona and all of those things. And so I just like to get it's a long painting, it's 36 by 60. So it kind of gives the vista. If you're walking along and you've got the trees are right there with you, keeping you safe. I've always felt like that, you know, in the woods, like there's all the creatures there, past and present, they're all there with me. And and this one, so you can see here, some of these brush strokes are, this is something I do. Okay, so I'll take my brush and I'll pick up maybe several colors on my palette that I'm using and put them down in one brush stroke and then leave it. And then put something next to it. And you kind of see that down in here. So you get some really thick, interesting, it's almost like a signature. It's like, you can never do it again, right? It's just, it happens. And then just going back, and you know, so much can happen just in trees and creating the depth. You've got the foreground, you've got the middle ground, the trees, and then just heading back into the distance. That one's 30 by 40. Okay, here's a smaller one. Sometimes I get an urge, because I do, one thing I do is I'll work on 5 to maybe 10 paintings at one time, because I've got them at different stages. And sometimes I like to work on smaller ones. This is more like a vista, very typical of our islands, very typical. There's the trees, and again, playing with these negative spaces and bringing in the gold. Some of the gold was there in the first place, and then I bring it back in. So I'm leaving little bits of the gold and then bringing it back in, and that just adds a lot of life to it. And this one's 20 by 24, and this is the one, Island as Sanctuary. So that really says it all to me, because this is my sanctuary. The Northwest, the trees, they feel so protecting, and then the mountains and the water, and it's pretty amazing. And I had a lot of fun here with color, and again, it's very thick, lots of thick brush strokes here. And then this one again is pulling out, and you're seeing a vista, some gold light, you know, and the light comes in a late day. It's really a gold light. So lots of play with color. So here's a couple pictures of the installation at the gallery, which looks wonderful. Sorry about that. All right. And it lends itself so well to the big paintings. I love it. There's another one. Such a wonderful show. So I hope you all have a chance to get in there and see them up close. Okay, I think that's it.
Well, thank you, Teresa. It was
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah.
It's on now. Yeah.
Great. I kind of blathered on for a long time, but if there's anything you wanted to ask or more, you know, you wanted more clarification on anything, I'm happy to.
Yes, I'm sure everybody have at least a question to ask. Thank you, Janet. She just says that she thanks for this series of artist talks. It's very interesting and informative. Thank you, Teresa. And thank you, Janet, for your kind comments. Yeah, so I would like to ask everyone, if you have any questions, please, if you feel comfortable, please turn your audio and video on and ask your question. If you like to just type it in the group chat, I can read it out loud. Or I can just start with a question of mine. Hi, Diana. I see that you have turned your audio on. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Not at the moment. Thoroughly enjoyed all the color being shared, and I'd like to come and see the show in person.
Wonderful.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Teresa, you use very vibrant colors in your paintings. How did your work evolve into this style and into this color palette?
Well, I think it's, again, it's I just have a feeling, you know, like I start with gold or sometimes red, and and then I see shapes in that, and I'll go, okay, what is calling me to do that? I don't always have a concept about color, although when I'm out, sometimes I take pictures, and I might take a lot of pictures, and then I'll come back and I'll go sift through them, and maybe there's a color combination that I see in there, and I might use that picture for color, and then another one for a tree, another one for a branch, and so on and so on, right? So so that, and if you want to go back farther, like even my watercolors were very vibrant. I just love color. Okay, I would say the color is probably my most exciting part of painting for me. That I get excited when I do, like when I get it just right. So I'll put, and even like if I put like this is kind of blue and purple. I don't know why I chose those colors necessarily, but even this that appears white will be a good complement to this. If this is greenish, the white might have just a tinge of pink in it. So there's a lot of opposites and complementary colors. And it just comes from years and years of experience of what color goes with this, you know,
Right.
What's gonna make that one just sing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I believe that it takes a lot of courage for an artist to use vibrant colors. Some artists try to just be more conservative and stick to the natural colors, and it just takes an extra courage to go beyond the natural colors and bring more vibrant colors into a landscape.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't think I could paint any other way. And sometimes I try. I'll think, okay, now I'm gonna do a muted painting. I just can't do it. It just doesn't happen, you know.
Great. So hi, David. I see that you have your audio on. Do you have any questions?
Well, no, we just wanted to compliment Teresa on her happy colors, and
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoy them.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's very kind. Thank you so much.
yeah, we're looking forward to adding your Woodlands 20 to our, we have a spot picked out for
Yay.
it. We'll try to send you a picture if you're interested in seeing it when it gets hung.
Absolutely. And I love that painting. I just love that painting.
So do we.
So do we.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, Teresa.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Perfect. So I will just go to my next question. So Teresa, you mentioned that you find all your inspirations in the nature and you love trees. What about the artists who you feel have the most influence in your work? Which artists are you look more into their works and you get inspired by their works?
Geez, I look at a lot of work. I love painters who can have maybe some areas that are a little more realistic, but again, they're very, very abstract at the same time. I always love Monet, for instance. I love the Canadian group of 7, Emily Carr. Emily Carr has been a huge influence, not necessarily in her painting style, but the book she wrote and how she felt when she was in the woods. I so relate. And I write as well. And so I feel a real kinship to her. Like I can just, she would write about being in the woods and staying in there and how it felt and the spiritual concept of it. Tom Thompson, especially. And it was from him that I saw, he starts with red or orange and he leaves a little bit of it showing. And I kind of ran with that one. Georgia O'Keeffe, there's just been so many. But, and I like to keep looking and say, oh, wow. And see what other people are doing. And yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So where do you see the future of your work? Do you have any plans? Are you working on a new project maybe? Would you like to share maybe a little bit of your plans with us?
Yes, I really am. So, and this last year has been tough, not just for me, but for a lot of people. And I spent the winter, and the winters are very short days, as you know. And I would go and walk 3 miles every single day in the woods. And I would always feel better when I came out the other side. And I felt it was so healing for me. And I don't know, a couple months ago, I guess, I started really feeling like I wanted to paint the actual path. And I'll show you one. So let's see. Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the path. And since then, I've been painting path in different sizes. I started taking photographs, like hundreds of photographs. I am so sorry. Let's stop that. And when I start, and then I go, okay, why am I painting all these paths? And I realized that all winter I was following the path. And it's like, it's the way in. It's the path is the way out. Mm-hmm. And it's so like philosophically, it explains everything. And it's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's, like the path of life. So what I'm doing right now is I'm writing about it a lot. I'm painting it. I have several paintings done. And when I choose something as specific as a path, I can experiment outside of that, right? I've got the path, and then I can do some that are maybe more loose, some that are maybe very abstract, some that are a little bit more representational. I can do different formats. I can do different sizes and so on.
That's
So
wonderful.
yeah. So that's my next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You mentioned COVID. During this last year, how COVID affected your professional work? Did you experience any challenges? How did you cope with COVID?
Well, at first, I had a lot of things lined up that I was going to do. I was, working really hard getting. I had this. I had an appointment with somebody at the Facebook headquarters. They were going to buy a bunch of my paintings for their lobby. That just died because now there's no lobby, right? And I was going to do Art Vancouver, and had all these paintings, and then everything just came to a halt. And it kind of makes you, it certainly takes the currency out of art because, okay, nobody's going to buy paintings. So I made a decision that I'm going to do the best paintings I've ever done. And that has been my focus. And all winter, I painted every day. And I'd go in the woods and I'd paint.
Mhm.
And they were just happening. And as time went on, it was clear, like I was happy with the work. I was happy with where it was going. And taking the currency out. And that is still true for me. If I do the best paintings that I need to do, it's like it's a path, it's a personal path for me. And I'd say it's very healing. And even though people say, oh, it's very therapeutic, go and paint that. I've never considered that. This is my profession. I do it every day. I'm dedicated, right? But when I looked at the path, it sort of went, wow, I have been doing it. And it has kind of filtered in a bigger picture, in a spiritual way. And I'd say I've definitely grown as an artist in my just my philosophy and my thinking about it, the importance of it, and where I want to go with it,
Mhm.
and just continuing to experiment and do the best work that I can. So
That's fantastic. That's probably the best approach everybody could take during this challenging times. Yeah. Well, I would like to ask another time if anybody has any questions, please feel free to turn your audio video on or just type it here. Because I am enjoying this conversation a lot. It's always, I see the artwork here, but it's always amazing to know the whole story behind the artwork. And I have another question for you, Teresa. Have you ever practiced any other style? Like, have you ever painted portraits? Have you ever practiced other different styles?
well, yeah. So let's see. Years ago, and I mean 20, 30 years ago, the way I raised my kids pretty much and supported my family was with watercolors, and I painted lighthouses all up and down the coast and sold cards and things like that, calendars. And then I did acrylics for a while, very abstract.
Mhm.
And then I started with oils, and this is many years ago. So I started with oils, large scale. I've done florals, like huge poppies.
Mhm.
And I did that for a while. I did also horses, equine art for a number of years. And then when I started going to Naropa, I went very abstract. It still felt to me like it was a landscape, but it was very abstract. Before that, I would say it was very representational. Like in my watercolors, also when I first started doing oils as landscape, it
Mhm.
was representational. And now I feel like I'm bringing the two together in a way that you can tell it's a landscape, you can experience it as a landscape and relate to it, but it's still abstract. So, you know, when I was telling you about all the little abstract paintings within the painting, that is something that develops all the time. And I feel like, you know, my next painting is my best painting. I'm never completely satisfied. I could be happy with a direction, but each painting says, oh, now next time I'm going to do this, or next time I'm going to try to make it more loose or thicker or leave more drips or whatever. So I don't know if that answered that or not.
Oh, that was great. It's always a big question for me, especially for artists who practice abstract a little bit into their work, is that when you decide a piece is finished, it's you can always add a little texture here, another brush stroke over there, and it's just, you can keep going. You can keep working on a piece for months and years. Yeah. And when you can decide that this piece is finished?
Oh, that's such a good question. And some of them, you know, honestly, some of them I feel like they're finished, and then, you know, a year later I'll go, oh, I just wish I could do a little more on that. But what I find, what I do is, as time goes on with the painting, at first it's very fast and I'm just working. And then I'm thinking, okay, there's the colors, there's composition, the shapes, all the shapes to me need to be interesting shapes, and the lines and everything has to be a certain way. And I look at it very closely, and it's loose. And I don't want to use the word polished, but I have thought through all of it. And then, you know, I stand back, I look at it up close. And then what I'll do when I feel like, and some people say there's no real end, it could keep going, like you said, but there's stopping places. So maybe at a stopping place, then I'll maybe put it in my bedroom so I can see it in different lights and when I wake up, or, you know, somewhere in the house that's very, I can't, you know, not notice it all the time. And I could be sitting there eating my dinner and I'm, you know, looking at it and like, oh, that one thing bothers me. And so that's kind of how it goes. I really look at them for a period of time, and it's more intuitive. I think it's like, it's just not right. There's something not quite right. And some of them, I mean, they take forever and I just keep painting over them because they don't really get done. But
it's very interesting that you as the artist have to live with your work,
yeah,
before you realize that, okay, I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. So, okay, if there's no other questions, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today and for taking their time from their Saturday and listening to us. Thank you, Teresa, for preparing this presentation. It was wonderful, and I believe everybody enjoyed it. The exhibition, A Mystical Approach, will be on display until Wednesday, June 16. As you know, this exhibition is a group show works by Teresa Smith and Trish Short. We will host another Zoom artist talk next week with Trish, and I hope if you have enjoyed this, please join the next artist talk as well. The gallery is open from Tuesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you live in Victoria, please drop by to have a look at the pieces in person. It's a totally different experience to see the artwork in person than to just see it virtually. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Teresa. I hope you have a great weekend, and goodbye.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Yeah, goodbye.
Thank you.